white smoke out of Egan. Leader Fan Radio Network.
Okay.
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 1 second past the hour of 3 o'clock. That's Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back. It is a midweek Wednesday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program. We're delighted that you're here for the ride on a, I wouldn't call it balmy, better than yesterday, headed in the right direction. I think we're supposed to get back in the 60s at some point very, very soon. Is all the snow gone yet, or are there still some piles?
I think there's a few piles.
Probably a few piles where the clouds have to, in parking lots to put it together. But that could change pretty dramatically, pretty quickly. My name's Dan Barreiro. I am the occasional host of the program Gaardsy produces, and we'll be here till 6:30 tonight. My dream of being preempted on the Fan by Golden Gopher men's basketball died. We'll monitor that game. We'll go to a couple live listen-ins. I think that game began about 2:35 this afternoon in Gaardsy's favorite Midwestern venue, Indianapolis, Indiana. It's the Gophers as a 12 taking on 13 seed Northwestern, correct?
Yes.
And we'll update you. We'll keep you abreast of that. In fact, at 4 o'clock, our old buddy Rick Bozich is going to check in to, in part, talk college basketball. Now that we're heading into the tournament phase, we haven't checked in with him on college hoops for a long, long time. So we'll get we'll take his temperature on the Big Ten, especially this year, who he views as a legitimate national championship candidate. Is this one of these years he thinks there are like 25 teams that could win it all, or does he think it's not quite that simple? In addition, we'll do Ode to a Dead Guy with Mr. Bozich as well. The news breaking yesterday, the junior Bridgman, a very accomplished American basketball player who ended up, in the end, had a very productive NBA career for a number of years, and then went from there to become one of the most successful. I don't know that there's any basketball player, well, maybe this side of Jordan, but even that, I don't even know Jordan compares, who has, I think the most Junior Bridgman ever made in his career was like $350,000 a year.
I did see that number.
And he became a billionaire. He became a big-time business guy, started with like 3 Wendy's franchises, and it just took off from there. But there's a lot more to him than just being a successful businessman. And Bridgman falls into that classification of it's a person that if you don't know him, you should. And Bozich, who got to know him very well in Louisville, will help us do exactly that as well. That's at 4 o'clock today. Kessler will be in studio at 5:30. We've got a lot of good stuff scheduled already for tomorrow. That'll include Mike Conley. Have a chance to review Vikings, Timberwolves versus the Nuggets. That's tonight in Denver. Is that game on the Fan?
It is. 9 o'clock tip.
9 o'clock tip. National TV game as well. It's the second game of the national doubleheader. First game's that's a nice doubleheader. It's Okie City at Boston, and then it's the rematch. The Wolves' first time in Denver since you were there for it. They eliminated the Denver Nuggets in Game 7.
The last time they were there
victory
was maybe one of the best press conferences in Timberwolves history with Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns.
Oh, that's right.
The world was our oyster
it really
at that
was.
point, right?
It really was.
We're on our way to hosting Game 1.
Yep.
Karl telling that reporter, we've been losing for 20 years. Yeah. How long do you want us to lose?
With that voice, that
cat
cracking
voice.
Cat voice,
How much you want us to lose?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, exactly.
Simpler times.
Very simpler, but much simpler. But then lately, things have been pretty promising for the Wolves. Be a nice opportunity tonight to see where this thing is, because now we're playing, obviously, a little bit more legitimate club. Where was I? Bridgman. Like I said, we'll ode him. And we'll continue on Rodgers watch until he is eliminated. In other words, until Aaron Rodgers signs with another team, which by definition means he wouldn't be coming here, we're not letting it go. Much to the chagrin, I know, of many of our listeners out there. I do need a clarification that you might be able to help me on, because I think we got there's an ongoing bit of confusion. I got a tweet. It's a link from a listener with a tweet from someone purporting to be Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. And the tweet reads, this was from actually 7:40 a.m. We will not be signing Aaron Rodgers, quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Now, people, I think, have gotten confused by the check mark next to the name.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is the real one. In fact, if you read carefully, the underline, not Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. And the other tip-off for me is that his pinned tweet, as sort of announcing he was hired, his greeting to the Twin Cities allegedly was, "Sup, biatches." And I said to myself, I know he's a withered and wild guy. He's Kwesi.
He is.
But I'm guessing that if you're an executive running a National Football League team and it's the real you, you're not going to be offering that up as your pinned tweet. So I guess the moral of the story is this, even with the check mark, this is not Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's Twitter account. Therefore, it may well be that the Vikings are not going to sign him, but I don't think this is the confirmation that listener did. I actually had to gently remind Lori Fisher, who retweeted or liked a not Kwesi tweet not so long ago, and say, hey, just so you know, there's nothing wrong with the tweet in that case, but just so you know, I don't think this is the real guy.
Just make sure we're not throwing it
Unless
in
I'm wrong, you tell me. I should have asked Rosen. Rosen would know. Rosen knows everything.
I think you read the situation correctly.
Yeah.
I think knowing what I know about how you read the situation, I think you have a good read on it.
Yeah, and there are some other tweets I'm not reading from that also might be tip-offs. It's unlikely to be Kwesi.
Yeah.
But I think the blue check mark throws people off.
It certainly does. Yes. It has before in the past.
No
what
question.
I like about it, though, just thinking about it out loud, a lot of high-profile people have burners or they have kind of the sleeper cell accounts.
Yes.
That would be a good way to have a burner that is so obviously satirical that it's not you, but if it is you, then it's even better.
You're right.
Because then I'm saying exactly what I want to say, but nobody thinks it's actually me because I'm saying it's not me.
Yeah.
A lot of layers to it, but it'd be better to have a burner.
And maybe, I'm guessing some do.
That's interesting.
Don't you think it's likely?
A burner that's actually attributed to a fake you.
To a fake you. And it's very entertaining and could be strategic, too. I don't know.
It's very good.
I retweeted our guy Seifert. He had one of those live ESPN hits where he basically repeated what he had told us yesterday. The only update was that that his reporting indicated that even as of last night, there were ongoing conversations inside the building about the possibility of diving into the deep end with Aaron Rodgers. I think he still thinks what he said yesterday. He still thinks what I think. I think it's more unlikely than likely. But the longer this goes on, the more I rule nothing out. The fact that with accomplished reporters, there has been an unwillingness inside the halls of the new Winter Park to just end it tells me something they're playing with it. And you know, and I know, there's not any question whatsoever that this is where Rodgers would prefer to land. I think that's the only reason he hadn't already signed with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh obviously wants him. The Giants want him desperately. He ain't going to the Giants. I don't think he's that stupid at this point, is he? I mean, that's right. I mean, you're coming back for another year with only one thing in mind, right? Redeeming yourself.
I would think so.
And you're not going to have much of a chance to redeem yourself with another floundering New York organization that might, like with the Jets this year, decide to fire the coach in the middle of the season if it goes badly. Steelers, I think there would be a chance. Yes, there's enough there. But you're sitting here, even before the Vikings had such a productive couple of days in free agency, you're going, they got a lot of interesting pieces there. They really got, sure, I'll raise my hand. But then again, what are the terms? Because my assumption all along would be that the Vikings would not be interested in more than 1 year.
I don't think he could be.
I don't think he could be. And so then it's what's he expect from a financial standpoint? Now, in The Athletic, I'm confused. I'll tell you what, we'll stay on schedule. I got to ask you something that I read in the Athletic piece today. They had a piece in which they basically laid out, here's the reasons why it makes sense for A-Rodge to get married to the Giants. Here's why it makes sense for, and also reasons why it makes no sense. In each case of the three teams that they have left standing here, us, the Giants, and the Steelers, they do basically pros and cons. And the pros, as offered up regarding Rodgers coming here, I did not understand at all. So we'll discuss that. We'll stay on this train. The Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open, 64686. No Kevin Fulness. We have not forgotten about your hockey team.
It was a fun game last night.
Yes, that was a very important victory. Doesn't solve their overall issues, but they badly needed a win, especially considering who they played. They played basically the way they need to play, right? Tight. And when I say tight, I don't mean like tight-assed. I mean tight in a good way. A tight game. Not too loose defensively. And got just enough offense, obviously. And they get 2 points at a time that they desperately needed it, especially at home, where they've not played very well. So we'll be able to fit that in as well. I don't know how far behind my feed is on Peacock.
Yep.
I've got, with 2:17 to go in the half, Northwestern up 7 on the Gophers, 30-23. Is that
what I have?
Is that what you have too?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm watching the same thing. That's what I have.
30-23. So at some point, we may not be able to do it this next segment because there are only a couple minutes left, but we'll have at least one listen in with our guy Mike Grimm, Dateline, Indianapolis, Indiana. Keep the text coming. Keep the controversy rolling. Back in a minute. Do you want to go to a late listen-in? They're in the final 40 seconds, unless the delay is too bad.
The delay is too bad.
Is it bad? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we'll get to it in the second half. I do know that the Northwestern looked like they were kind of gaining some control, up 9, and then Minnesota has scored the last 6. So it's now 32-29 Northwestern is what I have, and I think Northwestern is trying to get in the last shot. What's the name of the Northwestern coach? It's Collins, not Doug Collins, but his kid, right? Chris Collins almost murdered one of his own players, understandably. A guard, who I don't know his name, who was so nonchalant, like 4 times in the same possession with the ball, and ultimately did lose it. I think I would have killed him. I mean, it was bizarre. It was very, very strange, the whole sequence. And that actually kind of opened the door to the Gophers making it a little more interesting. And in fact, that's the halftime score. Northwestern 32 and the Gophers 29. That's 12 versus 13. First game, Big Ten men's basketball tournament. More on that with Rick Bozich, who's going to join us at 4 o'clock. You brought to my attention a fresh new tweet from another established national reporter regarding the Aaron Rodgers saga. What is it?
Diana Rossini tweeted out 5 minutes ago, Vikings decision makers are still evaluating their options at quarterback, including the possibility of signing Aaron Rodgers. The 4-time MVP is intrigued by the idea of playing in Minnesota. For now, it's a waiting game. Sources tell Mike Silver and me. Mike Silver, to remind people, was the one who got everybody going yesterday.
He did.
Tweeting about the interesting conversations being had in Eagan because of Kevin O'Connell's outsized voice and opinion when it comes to quarterback.
I'm looking at, did you also see the Daily Mail story?
I don't know if I did. I don't think so.
And photos. Here's the headline, exclusive. Downcast Aaron Rodgers looks to the ocean for answers as he faces toughest call of his life. And I got to say, these 3 photos, he does. He looks pensive. He looks like, I don't know what city I'm in. What am I supposed to do? Looks like he got shorts on, and then he's got like a heavier coat over it. And they found him, the paparazzi for the Daily Mail found him strolling along a Malibu beach last night. And as they write it, as he continues to ponder his NFL future, the shoeless 41-year-old quarterback was alone at sunset on the Pacific coast, where he was seen sporting a backwards baseball hat and a blanket wrapped around his torso. Rodgers is wearing headphones in the candid pictures, but it's unclear if he was listening to music, a podcast, or perhaps taking a call with his agents concerning his next team.
Waiting for Kwesi to call.
How about that?
Waiting for KOC. If you were to paint a portrait, it would be Waiting for KOC.
How good is that?
That's what you would call it. Well, I love that scene, that visual. I would love to have that life to just ponder things in Malibu on the Pacific Coast. That sounds very dreamy.
He looks very, very pensive. He does. He's like, what do I do? I got KOC calling me. I got Tomlin calling me. I got who's the Giants coach, Daboll, calling me. And, or do I just say, you know what, I've had enough? Is it possible part of the pensiveness is he's not sure what he has left in himself? Could he take a long, hard look at himself and say, I don't know. Maybe it's just time. Not good timing. Didn't want to finish the way I did, but maybe it's time. I don't know. So if you read into that tweet that you just passed along to us, then there's no guarantee anything's going to be resolved. Basically, it sounds like everybody's waiting for Aaron. Now, the question is, how long will each of these teams wait?
Well,
right?
I thought I saw Florio, somebody talked about he has met with the Steelers, or somebody on his behalf has met with the Steelers, and the Steelers are, quote, giving him space now. There was a tweet about maybe it could take a couple of weeks to get some type of resolution from Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
That they were giving him some type of space. Who knows what that means? And how
what
so
does that
is
mean?
the space that he's going to be calling the Vikings and saying, look, I'm going to go to Pittsburgh unless you guys are interested. And Brett Favre is publicly lobbying for him to come here now. I saw that. Whole thing has gone completely pear-shaped.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think it would take on the life of its own that it has when I tried to fuel it. I really didn't. I had no idea. Alec Lewis, Athletic. Why Vikings would make sense for Aaron Rodgers and for the Vikings. First, let's make this clear. The Vikings' thoughts on J.J. McCarthy have not changed. They believe he is the franchise's quarterback of the future and do not want to impede his path to the starting job. So, how could Rodgers still make sense? Because the Vikings want a veteran quarterback to pair with McCarthy, and Rodgers is the best veteran available. O'Connell knows what can happen when his quarterback plan goes sideways. 2023, Cousins tore his Achilles. Injury torpedoed the Vikings season. McCarthy is coming off a torn meniscus that forced him to miss his entire rookie season. And while the Vikings have spoken positively about his rehab, they still have to prepare for the worst. Rodgers would provide insurance for a team that has spent handsomely on players like Justin Jefferson and is focused on winning. Now, here's what I don't get. That almost makes it sound like, well, we would just bring in Rodgers in case JJ either stumbles or is not healthy enough to play. You know and I know there's only one way Aaron Rodgers would even consider coming here. You hand him the keys.
He gets the football.
He ain't coming to be scout team guy, is he?
I would doubt it.
I don't think there's any chance of that. And if you go that route, I actually think that's when the circus, you're embracing and inviting the circus to come to town, right? Because it's endless, daily histrionics and drama. Maybe playing out on his TV show on ESPN, the guy with the big arms that he's on with Pat McAfee. I mean, you can't have that kind of soap opera. No, you bring in Rodgers not as insurance. You bring in unless he's saying the insurance is we're not sure McCarthy's ready, but Aaron Rodgers comes in as the starter. Now, if 8 weeks in, I don't know how many weeks, 6, he's awful, then I guess good luck to KOC. You would have to have the hard conversation with him and say, A-Rodge, we got to sit you.
Yep.
I don't think that would go well, but you can't think of him as insurance here at all, right? You have to think of him. You got to be all in on him. Like, you have to decide whether you think he's got enough left in him where you've put around him a team that's good and based on the moves they've made has a chance to be even better if most of these moves work out. And you say, we're going for it for 1 year with this guy. We're seeing if he can have a bounce-back year because we think that would give us immediately for this coming season the best chance to build on what we did last year. Maybe not with as good a record because 14-3 is hard to top, but to actually do something in the postseason. That's how you and why you do something this dramatic with this much potential for utter and complete disaster, correct?
Yes, but the interesting thing about why you would do it now is that it didn't appear that was your plan A. And if you wanted to do this, give it to Rodgers for a year. Why wouldn't you have tried to do that already on the front end?
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Is it possible? It grew on him. I mean, is it possible?
That's true. Maybe.
It's the old, this is, at first they're all dismissing it like, for all the reasons we've laid out, this could be as self-mutilating a move as any team has ever made. We're on the fast track. We tried with Darnold, didn't work out, so we're on the other direction. But maybe they hadn't really thought about that much, and the more they did, the more they said, let's talk about this a little more. KOC gets the group into this big meeting room, and they go, is this crazy? Am I crazy to actually flirt with this? Because the more I think about it, the more I think we probably should talk about it some more. I don't know, because you're right. That's the fair comeback is,
it's a weird pivot.
It is a very weird pivot.
From Daniel Jones maybe being the backup to Aaron Rodgers being your starter.
100%. Because you could make the argument on that with that logic that if Jones had accepted your deal and didn't, because I presume we made him an offer. I think that's been confirmed. I don't know. Maybe it hasn't. But if he takes if you have an offer to him and he stays, you're obviously then not going to get Rodgers as well, right? In addition to J.J. McCarthy, that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense.
It does not.
I don't know. We'll have to see. It's an interesting set of circumstances. A-Rodge is pondering his poor decision he made in passing on the Jeopardy gig. Was he offered the Jeopardy gig?
I don't think he was ever offered it. He did it.
That's right. He did it. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right.
He did it, but I don't think he passed on it.
Yeah. The only way the Vikings make the Super Bowl next year is with Rodgers as their QB. Wow, tide has turned on the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line. I mean, 2 days ago, people wanted to murder me. Now they're like, it's our only chance to win a bowl.
That's true. That's what people are thinking now.
It would need to be a wake-up, the Echoes-type Rodgers season, which is up for debate if he still has good football left, but we aren't making the Super Bowl next season with a rookie quarterback. Well, that's probably true. I mean, that's how often does a rookie quarterback lead his team to the bowl? I know he's rare. I know he's special.
Yep, he is.
I know he speaks in Latin or does Latin phrases and all that kind of good stuff.
His command of everything, his attacking to the rehab, it's all been top notch.
It's all been unbelievable is what it's been. That's for sure. All right. So did we add anybody else, by the way? Is Cooper Kupp been released?
He's been either released or informed that he's being released.
Maybe that's the hang-up. Maybe Rodgers said, as soon as you tell me I also can add Cooper Kupp to my receiving core, I'm there. I'm on my way to Egan.
And the Hargrave thing is now official. He's agreed to terms with the Vikings, 2 years, $30 million. That's in the last 10, 15 minutes.
Like a bargain.
That it's been official.
Not bad.
We're loading up.
So we still got plenty of money.
We're loading up.
God, what's the cap hit for 2025 on that contract? Do we know?
I don't. I'm just seeing all the tweets now with the original terms, but it's probably like $10 the way that we're doing it.
Get Rodgers for $5 million, make him the backup, but promise he can start the 2 games against Green Bay. It's an interesting way to look at it. I'm not sure that would work out, but we need somebody. Can we send somebody to Malibu to follow him around? Could we get Halvey to start stalking him in Malibu?
If it's Malibu, I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'll go. If it's California, I'm happy to go.
Yeah, very good point. All right, don't forget Rick Bozich coming up at 4 o'clock. Ode to a Dead Guy with him, and also we'll talk some college basketball. We'll keep an eye on, get a live listen in as the second half is about to begin, I believe. In fact, I think it just started. Gophers and Northwestern men's basketball, Indianapolis first-round game. In fact, it's the first game of the tournament, as we like to say in the business. Did you happen to see I don't remember the name of the conference that Gonzaga and St. Mary's play in? It's
the West
WCC, isn't the West Coast
Conference?
Yeah. Gonzaga wins it, as they often do, and it's often against St. Mary's. But did you happen to note the combined three-point shooting of the two teams?
I didn't see it.
They took 31 combined and made one.
Are you nuts?
1 for 31.
That's not very efficient.
Even I can do that math. That's not very good, is it?
No, I don't know what the percentage is.
I wonder if that's a record.
Probably.
Given how many? Only 1 for 31. I mean, that's... Everybody always wants to tell, college basketball is so much better than the pros. You just don't understand. And it's like, it can be, but it can also be awful. 1 for 31 is awful. I mean, I mean, that to me falls into the classification of why you continue to shoot them, even though I know you have to shoot them and are supposed to shoot them. But, 1 for 31. That definitely got my attention. The Wild, congratulations to Fallness and company. They get a much-needed victory at home, correct?
Yeah.
The Lanch had passed us. Well, they still are past us in the standings, I think. But if you're going to have any, I don't know, belief that you can kind of recover and maybe leapfrog back on top of them, around them, over them, you kind of needed to win that game at home. Did you not? Last night?
Yes.
And they did. It was a little scary late, but they did indeed take care of business. And as we said, we're all kind of including everybody in the team, everybody's in kind of in a holding pattern, right? By the way, this was a shootout win, correct?
2-1.
2-1.
Yep.
That is right. We're all in a holding pattern on the injured players indeed getting back. But I like the way Joe Smith wrote it. And this is what we talked about early. It's not only that they won, but how they did it. Another stingy defensive performance and their top guys delivering, or the guys who now have become their top guys out of need. This is the template for how they need to play down the stretch, knowing the offense is going to eventually come. Jake Middleton, huge, not only for the standings, but our confidence. We played a solid game. We definitely deserve 2 points. Now, we had lost 5 of our last 7. And what were we down to? Like, I think our hold on a playoff spot was by 7 points. I don't know if that changed as of last night.
Now it's 9.
It is 9 now for the moment. Any games in hand involved, though?
Vancouver does have 1 game in hand on us. Yes. Calgary has a couple. They're 8 points behind us in the second wild card.
Here's my question. Do you know, my assumption is that the game was stopped twice for a ceremony. The first time, when the Wild penalty kill successfully prevented the Lanch from scoring. And then the second time, the Avs had a one-man advantage, and our penalty kill again prevented them from scoring. We were 2 for 2 stopping their power play. So was there a ceremony? Did anybody get a ceremonial puck of some sort?
I'm sure they kept the puck. I don't know if they stopped the game for it.
That's kind of a problem for us. Or it has been, correct?
It has been, absolutely.
So, again, is this the start of something? Because we're at home for a while yet, right? Wasn't that the second game of a 7-game homestand?
Something like that.
I think it's in that range. Yeah, I think we still got a bunch of games. So it's the old deal of make some hay right now, right? Finally have a homestand you can be proud of, because obviously the home record, the road record might still be the best in hockey. The home record has not been quite so successful, correct?
It hasn't been. And yeah, looking at it, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more games at home.
5 more, yeah. So they lost the first one, and then they won the second one.
Yes.
Correct?
And then they go to Dallas for a game and then have 3 more at home. And last night, what was funny, they're up 1-0 forever. Yes. It was like that Boston game a couple of weekends ago. They're up 1-0 forever. Colorado ties it on kind of a weird little flip-in shot that I don't think Gus Bus really saw. They hang on to get to overtime, so you're like, all right, 1 point. Did you see the overtime at all?
I did not.
Avs fans were bitter because the Wild essentially...
Did we cheat?
Well, they did like the hockey version of 4 corners.
Okay.
Where they just held the puck forever. Because, 3-on-3 is dangerous when you don't have the good players.
Yes.
When you're going up against the McKinnons of the world. So we went Dean
Smith on the bit.
Pretty much. Yeah. We just kind of held it for a while. Then we'd shoot it back. Then we'd come out of the zone.
Yeah.
And then we'd kind of try to score for a minute. Then we wouldn't. And I want to say we held it for the first 2 minutes of the overtime. Something like that. So Avs fans were bitter. They were tweeting at everybody affiliated with the Wild. Fallness, Gorg, Russo, everybody.
Going after it.
Basically, I've never seen a team more scared to have the puck in overtime. It's like, I kind of liked it because...
What's the object of the game?
To win.
To win. Yeah,
what's wrong with winning?
Do. I mean, we're down 3 guys. And what do you want us to do about it?
They don't need to get into a 3-on-3 track meet.
No.
Just get to the shootout and see what happens. And they did. And they ended up, I think, making 2 of the 3. And Colorado only made 1, and there's your ball game. But it was funny because you think of 3-on-3 overtime, you think of chances galore. 1 mistake, there's an odd man rush the other way. You've got guys getting on and off the ice. It's frantic. it was anything but that last night. And I kind of liked it. It was interesting. I hadn't seen that really before.
You kind of enjoyed it, is what you're saying.
It was just different. It was just funny because it was so obvious, at least to me. People can correct me if I'm wrong. But it just felt like, let's not do anything stupid here to give them an odd man rush out of nowhere.
I was about ready to go to a live listen in Indy, but I think they're in a timeout because Northwestern has come out of the gate fast. They now lead by 12. So it was down to, it was 32-29 at the half.
Yep.
Gophers were down 3. And since then, Northwestern, as the second half, it's the first under 4-minute timeout, under, I should say, 16 minutes.
And they're back if you want to go to it. The
they are back?
A little bit
Stream's
lower.
a little low? Okay,
yeah,
so
we can go to Grimmer
44-32. Let's see how grumpy Grimmer is and how he's feeling about the officiating. Mike Grimm!
Out of the timeout, Rigsby, Garcia, Frank Mitchell into the game. Isaac Osama and Lakai Patterson for the Gophers. Nicholson, Martinelli, Mullins, Clayton, and Barry for Northwestern. Northwestern, of course, with the injuries, has shrunk its bench. Leach and Barnheiser, both starters, their second and third leading scorers, suffered season-ending injuries about 3 weeks ago. And this team has played very well in their absence. Pass into the corner to Garcia from Minnesota. Trying to mount a rally here, down by a dozen. Patterson a 3 from straight on, and it's an air ball sailing straight out of bounds. And it'll be Northwestern ball in the backcourt, and now that brings us to our under 16 officials timeout.
Okay, yeah, I think, you know what? Actually, I think he did. You're right, because I remember watching the feed, and I think he didn't want to wait because it looked like it was getting away from him a little bit. There's plenty of ball to play. There's no question about that, but we'll try to get back to it perhaps a little later in this segment before we prepare for Rick Bozich to talk college basketball and the shocking death of Junior Bridgman, outstanding National Basketball Association player who was at an event in Louisville. In fact, Rick Bozich will tell us once the story broke, he went to the hotel. He knew Bridgman very well. And so it was just a rough scene because Bridgman was quoted as saying, I feel like I'm having a heart attack.
Wow.
He collapsed. They attempted to revive him several times, obviously taken away in an ambulance, and they were unable to ever do that. I believe 71 years old. Great high school player in not far from where Bozich and I grew up, near Gary, Indiana. He was East Chicago. And then a terrific career at the University of Louisville, and then a very successful NBA career as well. And ultimately became a minority owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. And as I said earlier, went from, I'm going to buy 3 Wendy's franchises to literally becoming at one point a billionaire. So successful was he in the business side of it. But part of the reason you're hearing, you're seeing some basketball people very emotional about this loss. And I think it's not the basketball and it's not the business stuff. He was one of those guys who stayed connected to everybody and tried to use his platform to help. He's involved in 1 million significant charities. So we'll get into all of that with Bozich. Doubleheader. It's interesting because the first game is going to get all the love of the NBA doubleheader tonight because it's being viewed as, could this be a preview of the National Basketball Association final round? Right? It's Okie City at Boston.
Yeah.
Hard to argue with that, right? But then we're kind of, I think, the other game. Okay, it's kind of cute. Denver's Denver.
They had
still
a good
got
thing
Joker.
last year.
And the Wolves were, they were real cute last year. But what's really happened lately? Yeah, they got a nice, cute little winning streak right now. But what's it leading to? Where are they headed? So I'm glad finally we're also playing a better team because I do think the test on all these little, subtle improvements,
the positive signs
that we're seeing, we want to see that pay off against better teams as well. Now, Denver just had a back-to-back with Okie. They lost the first game, and then they rebounded nicely to win the second one. And, there's a lot of discussion once again about because Joker was great in both games, and then they were able to split the 2 games with Okie City. He had the 30-20-20 not that long ago. Is the MVP race tightening? Because for a while it's been clear that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the favorite and probably should be. He is scoring more than 32 points a game on the best team, from a record standpoint in the Western Conference by far. And in addition, they have analytically, they are what the Wolves were last year defensively in every category statistically. I mean, they have been a dominant defensive team, and he's a legitimate defensive player as well. So, but because then you get the 30-20-20 and all of Joker's numbers, these are the best numbers of his career. Were you with me the other day when we laid him out?
Could have been
his shoot. I mean,
yes, I was.
His numbers are beyond belief this season. He's shooting better from 3 than he ever has. His overall shooting percentage is like 58%. And they're going, well, wait a minute. He wins 3 MVPs and his statistics are better. Is not going to win the MVP? I don't have a problem with Shai winning it. I have none. I have no problem with him winning it given their team success. I get the bit. If you take Gilgeous-Alexander off Okie City, they're still competitive. They're not the same, but they're competitive. You take your guy Joker off of Denver, they're a lottery team, literally.
Right.
And then you go, well, isn't that value? Isn't that how you? So, I could sit here and say that I wouldn't be offended if Joker won it again, but I think the Okie City record and the fact that he has been scoring, every other team is doing what? They're focused on him more than anything else. We got to try to limit him a little bit. And he's scoring over 32 points a game. He's got like the streak of 20 points or more that's like the longest streak in the history of basketball or something. So this isn't going to be one of those where I'm going to be offended either way, but it has become interesting as Joker has finished, seems to be finished the season as strongly as he has.
Well, not the first time ever that we've seen a guy who might be the best player in the league every single year not win every single MVP, because voters do have it in their mind to mix it up a little bit, right? They do. Well, they get
voter fatigue. They go, let's just give somebody else. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, it happens. It's human.
LeBron hasn't won every MVP.
Correct.
I saw Jace Frederick frame it kind of this way, and I agree with him that there's some stretches where guys are far and away the best player in the league. Like if you started a franchise, who are we taking? You're probably taking Joker.
Joker's the best player in the league. I agree.
Exactly.
Totally. Yes.
Jordan was the best player in the league for a decade. LeBron was the best player in the league for a decade. They didn't win every single MVP because other guys come up, and I do think it's fair to recognize, it's probably this guy's turn. It's probably because he's putting up ridiculous numbers.
Especially if the team has the kind of record that Oklahoma City has fashioned this year.
And they've ascended as he's ascended. And now here they are with the best record, and he's the biggest reason for it. So I think when the dust all settles, unless he falls off big time here in the last month and Joker goes crazy and they somehow overtake him, I think that's what we're going to see.
Do you want to try it again? Try to go back to Indianapolis for Grimmer? I think we're back.
Yeah, Gophers are trying to tighten it up a little bit.
All right.
47-37.
Come on, Grim. Come on, man.
And he can make it a single-digit game here.
We're at the line. That's always an adventure.
Yeah. Well, he had a chance to mutter about the officials, and he's not, though.
47-38. The lead is 9. 13:09 to play. Gophers now need to get some stops here. They've hit one of their last 8 field goals, but they have now hit 4 free throws on their last couple of possessions. Barry out front, left-hand dribble, gives to Wyndham. Wyndham along the baseline, bounces for Martinelli. Martinelli with 1 bucket here in the second half has 18 points. Now to Wyndham, gets a screen from Martinelli, pass back to Martinelli, and Patterson steals it. Ahead to Garcia. He'll get a Euro step, miss the shot, put back no. Rebound, hot potato. Mitchell fires out to Rigsby. Third crack at it. Here's Osama on the drive. Left-handed layup, no. And the rebound comes off to Clayton. Gophers had 3 cracks at it and couldn't get a bucket. Rebound Northwestern, and Martinelli into the offensive end, leading by 9. 12:20 to go. ISOing here, Martinelli against Garcia. Backs him down into the paint. Left-handed shot, no. But Dawson picks up his first foul.
Come on.
Making his second foul.
Come on, Grimmer. Complain about the call.
And to the line will be Martinelli.
Nothing. What's going on with Grimm?
Martinelli with 19.
Fan in Indy.
Yeah. It's not a full house right now in Indy, I don't think.
He's 1 for
Despite
2
being the
at the
greatest
stripe.
host city ever.
And he hits the first. 20 points now for Martinelli. He had 29 in Williams Arena against the Gophers in that win, as we mentioned, 15 days ago. He had 28 in the last regular season game and a loss to Maryland. Missed the second. Offensive rebound, though, to Barry.
Come on,
He'll
man.
kick out to Clayton, and Northwestern will reshuffle and reset, leading by 10, 48-38.
That's
Clayton
annoying.
gets a screen from Martinelli, working left, cut off by Fox. They switch, though, and now Martinelli with 4 to shoot, working on Rigsby. He takes it in, lost the ball, but a foul. And I think they're going to get Rigsby with the foul. They will, his second. And we'll see if they give that to, no, it'll be it will be 2 shots, they say. So 2 shots for Northwestern.
Right.
When we come back, they lead by 10, 11:59 to go. Hey, Gopher fans.
I have never heard Grimm complain less about officiating. Have you noticed that there was nothing? It was like it wasn't even seemingly part of the discussion. Now he's by himself, right?
Right now he is, yeah.
It would have been you.
It could have been.
It could have been you. They offered it to you
A little late.
like an hour before the flight.
Yeah, a little late.
And yet, so my guess is it's harder for him to get into that mode if there's not another person he could be talking to. You know what I'm saying? I'm guessing that's what's maybe
You think so?
Maybe limiting his desire to go down the officiating road.
Maybe because there's not someone to agree with him or disagree with
That's
him.
it.
But I almost think when he's alone with his own thoughts, it would be more omnipresent that he'd be thinking about the officials.
By the way, the winner of this game, Minnesota Northwestern, I think plays Wisconsin.
Correct.
Correct? That would be tomorrow.
Yes.
And that would be the second game on the Thursday schedule.
It'd be
It's
about the
Badgers.
same time.
Yeah, pretty much about the same
Yep.
time. So, yeah, they're struggling to score. Obviously, they're having some difficulties scoring. And, you know, Grimm, you heard Grimm mention it. Northwestern's down like their second and third scorer. So this should not be a good loss for the Golden Gopher men's basketball program. Real quick, is it worth? We can get into it in more detail later if you heard anything. It sounds as if Hopkins-Wayzata, the rematch, which we discussed yesterday, kind of went off without much of a hitch. Is that true?
Everything I saw.
I didn't see any sign of, any sort of repeat trouble, difficulty.
No.
People being followed, players being followed into the locker room, the whole bit.
And it was a tremendous basketball game from all
Now,
reports.
did you stream it?
I didn't. I watched people that cut up highlights of the stream last night. I didn't end up streaming the whole thing. It was a great game. I think Wayzata ended up winning by 4. They were up, 8-9 points second half. Hopkins makes a big run. They tie it with 48 seconds to go. Wiggins, the junior, hit a big 3. He had 30-something. He had a great night, hit a wing 3 to put them back up by 3.
Right.
Your guy Novak did get a technical last night.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did get a technical.
First of the year?
Probably. First in a decade. They called the fifth foul on one of Hopkins' best players on kind of a moving screen offensively right in front of the Hopkins bench, and he had some words for the official, ended up getting teed up, and that was it. So that was in the second half.
No.
So from everything I heard, the officiating was rock solid last night, too. Like, they had a good handle on the game.
That's good. That's key.
And it sounded like the kids played, I mean, you just look at the score and how it went. It's exactly what it should have been. Packed house, great effort by both teams, and the story is the basketball.
That's helpful. That's encouraging. And it is worth mentioning because there's been so much buildup given all the time, all the coverage that we were certainly a part of in the blowback after the nonsense that took place. What was that, just like 2 weeks ago?
Probably, yeah, 2.5.
Maybe 2 and 3 weeks ago. All right, let's go ahead and make this the top of the hour pause. We're going to talk some college basketball now that it is conference tournament time with our good friend Rick Bozich. And we'll also talk to him about a great piece he wrote via his TV website, WDRB.com, on the shocking death of Junior Bridgman, a name that you may or may not know, but I will guarantee you should come back because you need to know about the Junior Bridgman story. It is a remarkable story, regardless of whether there's any kind of Minnesota connection or not. There's a universality to his story, and it's also part of the tragedy of how he died way too young. Stay tuned for Mr. Bozich next.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Optimize your nutrition with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences, like Calorie Smart and Protein Plus. Factor's keto meals can help you lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks. Get started at factormeals.com/factor50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Weight loss with Factor Keto based on a randomized controlled clinical trial. Results will vary depending on diet and exercise.